10-Minute Investigative Reports with your hosts Lisa Stalker and field reporter Dennis True. Tonight, the Amish prodigy. Who is Jake Yoder?
I am only a boy in a city full of trees, but every night I journey, while the other children of the city lie asleep and dream. I travel through the blue moon or the hush, severe dark if there is no moon.
A precocious adolescent Amish boy in Iowa, troubled by family and community tragedy, pens fantastical and poetic tales. The boy, Jake Yoder, later regrets having written at all, devoting himself anew to the Amish way of life. So one rainy, windy night, in the presence of an older novelist who had befriended him, he throws his manuscript into a fire, vowing never again to commit the sin of writing stories. The novelist, Stephen Beachy, rescues much of the manuscript from the flames and publishes Jake Yoder's stories paradoxically under his own name, as requested by Yoder. Since its release, Boneyard has garnered praise and fascination, but also much controversy.
When we agreed to publish the novel, we agreed to publish it under Stephen's name. And according to him, that's what Jake Yoder wanted. He'd gone back to the Amish church. He wanted to forget about his writing. It's antithetical to Amish values. He thought it was evil. He thought he'd written an evil book, and he didn't want his name on it.
Our team set out to take a closer look at this dazzling yet disturbing piece of work. We brought the book to the attention of Jürgen Kraybill, widely considered one of the leading scholars on Amish culture and society.
Frankly, this book is obscene and a fraud. An Amish boy, even one distraught because of his mother's suicide, would not have written a novel like this.
Verse Course Press is the publisher of Boneyard, and Judith Owsley Brown its editor, although she harbors her own concerns about the legitimacy of the novel and whether Jake Yoder even exists.
As far as I know, there's only one person who's met him, or one person who's claimed to meet him, and that's the author, Stephen Beachy, the one who presented his work to us. I have tried to contact him. I've done everything I can think of to find him, but he wouldn't give an address. The Amish don't use telephones, and he hasn't accepted my friend requests on Facebook.
You know, on the one hand, he doesn't want anything to do with the book, but on the other, of course, he wants everybody to read the book because he's vain, like anybody is. This is the original manuscript. You know, I met him 4 times, and the last time that I met him was in this old abandoned building, and there was a fire, and he said, you know, that his book was evil, and he threw it in the fire, and he ran off, but I saved it from the fire, and I spent months trying to reconstruct it from memory.
Stephen showed me the original manuscript, this huge sheaf of paper with a hole burned through the center of it. Supposedly he'd rescued it from the fire. And that always seemed a little strange to me. So as an experiment, I took a bunch of manuscripts from the slush pile and I threw them into the fire. And not one of them had that pattern replicated.
Judith's paranoid. She's a paranoid freak. You know, she has a son who's the same age as Jake, and he's bipolar like Jake. And, you know, I think it really bothers her that Jake could live this sort of creative life instead of being over-medicated by his controlling mother.
It's a fair question. I mean, why would we publish his novel without having met him in person or confirm that he even exists? Honestly, I've had serious doubts since the work was presented to me. But I don't know if it really matters if he exists or not.
That's like saying it wouldn't matter if Shakespeare were really a woman or if Martin Luther King were really a white man. It's a question of authenticity. This novel constitutes a misrepresentation of Amish culture and a form of exploitation. That's the word that I would use, exploitation.
So now Jake has latched onto the case of Willard Yoder, who's his cousin, this Amish guy who was arrested for sexting a 12-year-old girl.
For months, he wouldn't respond to any of my attempts to contact him. Then out of the blue, I get this rambling, impassioned email. He's requesting that we donate some of the profits from the book to the Willard Yoder Defense Fund.
Willard Yoder. The American media just love to descend on the Amish like vultures. The Amish aren't saints. They deal with depression, substance abuse, mental health issues. This was an Amish man texting obscene messages to a young girl, and it's a tragedy, another Amish tragedy exploited by this kind of fraud.
So here you have Jake, who's dealing with mental health issues, with substance use issues, with sexual issues, depression, and he's been shuttled back and forth between Amish culture and mainstream culture for his whole life, but he's also very bright. Maybe he's even a pathological liar, or maybe he can't tell what's real and what isn't real.
I've spoken with the family of Willard Yoder. They don't know this Jake Yoder. They don't know him at all.
Jake Yoder's Facebook page lists his hometown as Riverside in Iowa, the town famous for hosting the annual Star Trek convention. Our crew traveled to Riverside to find Jake Yoder and to learn directly from him his feelings about writing and especially the reconstructed Boneyard. Following leads culled from Yoder's Facebook page, we sought him out at the Kelowna Internet Cafe, a place Jake claims to frequent in spite of his professed Amish beliefs. After several days of staking out the cafe, it seemed that we might finally meet Mr. Yoder at last.
Hey, there he is!
Are you looking for Jake Yoder? Jake? Well, he's kind of shy. Doesn't like attention much, but he's real. I grew up next to him, on the farm next to his. I grew up Amish, too. I've known Jake since we were little kids. If you ask me, he's a real genius. He's the best writer I ever read. But they've got him brainwashed again. His Amish family, they brainwashed him. Outsiders don't know. They think the Amish are so cute and perfect and plain, but they're a cult, an abusive cult. Do you know that there's no word for love? They don't have a word for love. There's no word for love in Pennsylvania Dutch.
Of course he's real. Just because you couldn't catch him, it doesn't mean that he's not real.
Stephen and I have not had the smoothest relationship. It improved after we sent the manuscript off to the printers. I think we were both pleased with the final result, although we didn't agree about much else. But I don't think Stephen is a well person.
I don't really care if anybody believes in him or not. I mean, I just don't care.
I see him at the internet cafe sometimes, and when I go back home, I sneak back home to steal my family's apple butter from the pantry. You just can't find good apple butter out here.
The Amish people believe in a principle of non-resistance. They see themselves as separate from the world, and so they have no interest in doing battle against this type of misrepresentation. But those of us who are close to their community, yet not a part of it, need to stand up and need to say this is not real and this is not right. This kind of work is worse than that horrible movie with Kelly McGillis as the Amish girl in the 80s. We've been battling this kind of thing for a long time.
If I could tell that mother one thing, I would tell her that she came many years ago to River City for one reason: to give up hope. Give up hope. I would say relinquish it completely. Open your eyes wide and wander through life as in a dream.
So what do you think? Who is Jake Yoder?